Are you someone else who feels like they need to get closer to God right now? In the end times, all the important things are said to happen in Jerusalem. Did you know that? The Archangel Michael, who is known as God's guardian and guide for Israel, has always been a source of hope for Israel. Are you aware that rising tensions are bringing us dangerously closer to the edge of nuclear war, which is a sobering sign that the end of the world may be near? Hence, the strange Archangel Michael, whose name means like a god, has been making a lot of noise in Jerusalem lately. For many faiths, this old city is very important. But Michael is still devoted to one God. What was his reason? To pretend to be a representative of God, who has a very important message for everyone. Join me as we look into why Michael really came to Jerusalem, the holy city. Chapter 1. The biggest battle in the skies over Israel. The next war is going to be called the Gog-Magog War. Muslim and Russian troops will attack Israel from the north in this story. Some people believe that this event will prove that God is still keeping an eye on his chosen people. But it's important to remember that divine help might come with some rules. In the past, when Israel turned away from God's way, they were spread out in many places for about 2,500 years. Right now, something similar is taking place. There are 8 million people living in Israel, but most of them don't think Jesus is the long-planned Messiah. Predictions say that Israel will have a hard time. Even though things are hard, they can grow and find the real Messiah, who is meant to lead them. To get a better sense of what he means, let's look at where the Archangel Michael appears in holy books. What did the prophet Daniel see with an angel dressed in linen? He writes about it in the book of Daniel. It turned out to be Gabriel, the archangel. Gabriel tells them that it will be hard to get Cyrus, the king of Persia, to let the Jews go back to Israel. He talks about a 21-day fight that was very hard and took place against the prince of Persia. Behind the scenes, these fights give us a look into the spiritual ones. In this war in the sky, Archangel Michael shows up as one of the most important princes and is very important to these spiritual fights. People have faith that God's plans will work out, even if there are spiritual problems along the way. The birth of Michael is proof of this. Gabriel is in a tough fight with the prince of Persia in the book of Daniel. He needs help from Michael, who is known as one of the best kings. In some stories, Michael is called an angel, which is a figure of speech for the spiritual fight that is going on. In Daniel 12:1, Michael shows up again in a vision about the end of the world. People think of him as the Israelites' ever-watchful protector who frees them from their enemies. In the Old Testament, Michael isn't talked about as much, but in the letter of Jude, he comes back to life and gets into a fight over what should happen to Moses' body. In the book of Revelation, Michael leads a group of angels against a strong dragon, Revelation 12:7-9. This is one of the most well-known pictures of Michael. Michael must be a brave fighter because he beat Satan and the dark forces in this big war. The Bible makes it clear what Michael's job is. He comes to earth to guard and fight. He always has the power to beat Satan and keep people safe from spiritual threats. Yet, Michael's job is not just to fight. He is the protector of all of God's people, especially those in Israel. He beat Lucifer in a fight in heaven and was then named the protector of God's people. Michael then became the leader of God's celestial host. We are told to think about the past while the sky is full of fights. Tales from the past that are full of lessons can help us guess what will happen in the future. Chapter 2. A warning sign from 1,000 years ago. This amazing event didn't take place in Tokyo, Rio, or Istanbul, which are some of the top towns in the world. It took place in Jerusalem instead, a city with a lot of religious meaning and stories about the end of the world. It was a big deal when the Archangel Michael showed up in Jerusalem. It was even more important because the area has a difficult history. Michael is a revered guardian figure in both Jewish and Christian faiths. He stands for how God will always be with Israel. People who are truly Christian today believe that these stories of God appearing to people happen all the time, especially when Israel's having a hard time. A moving film shows that God's love for Israel will always be there. It's been more than 2,500 years since the Jews were separated and mistreated. Many groups, like the Babylonians, Queen Isabella, and Hitler, have fought them, but they have kept going even though the odds were against them. The fact that Israel has lived for so long is seen by many as proof that God has been watching over them for a very long time. Some people believe that recent events, like the founding of Israel, show that this story is true. Jews have kept moving to Israel over the past 100 years, even though there have been many problems. This shows how important it is in the political world. A lot of people think that these events show that God kept his promise to watch over the land and his people. People see the Archangel Michael as a guardian and message from heaven, and he plays a big role in this story. When there is trouble, some people think that seeing things in the sky means that Michael is close by. Israeli soldiers have said that they felt safe and strong in fight, while their enemies were scared. When these things happen, many people say that God is behind them. In May 1948, Israel was formed, even though nearby countries were threatening. This was a very important event. Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq all fought hard against Israel, but Israel won. A lot of people believe this is a sign from God. This view became even stronger after the Six-Day War in 1967, which showed how unlikely it was for Israel to win, even though they were much outnumbered. This showed how closely geometry and the idea of God's help are connected. Israel got more land after the war, and Jerusalem was part of that. The Jews took control of the city for the first time in a very long time. A lot of people who study Bible prophecies think that these things are happening because God wants them to. Israel got through the early problems of the Yom Kippur War in 1973 and won with help from the US. This is another instance of God's help. Recent events, such as the big storm in December 2016 that stopped ISIS from getting into Israel's Golan Heights, have made people even more sure that they are being protected by God. They show that Israel is still safe with God. While we start a new age, the sounds of the past remind us that trouble is always around the corner, and that the call of war could destroy the whole world. Chapter 3. Loud to the trumpets of war. There is always a chance that the system will fall apart and a third world war could happen. There is also no promise that peace will last. Archangel Michael shows up when things aren't clear with a deep message that speaks to people's worst fears. In many faiths, Archangel Michael is a very important and admired figure who stands for a strong guardian and defender of the holy. The Quran and other holy books call Michael Mikal, which means strong. People see him as the boss of the angels and someone who keeps bad things away. Many faiths honor him, including Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and the Baha'i faith. This shows how important he is to all of them. Writings from the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC by Jews praise Michael as the most powerful angel, the prince who watches over Israel, and a true student of God's law. Michael is the leader of God's troops in space, fighting against the forces of darkness and beating Satan and his followers in the end. This is shown in Christian scripture, especially the book of Revelation. He is in charge of spiritual battles and keeps God's people safe when bad things happen, as shown in the books of Daniel and Jude. Archangel Michael has always been seen as a symbol of hope and protection, giving comfort and direction in times of trouble. This is especially true now that the world is facing the threat of global war. It's not enough for Michael to just be a fighter. He is the divine principle of good winning over evil. He also looks out for everyone and sticks up for them. Many religious groups honor Michael on his feast days, which shows how important he was to people of all faiths and countries. That's why Michael is often shown on religious items with images like a sword to fight evil, scales to judge souls, and a dragon to show that he beats Satan. In addition to being the patron saint of the sick, police officers, and the military, Michael is also the patron saint of many other groups. People who ask Archangel Michael for help have more faith because he says he will always fight evil. The book of Revelation tells the story of his famous fight with Satan, the bad guy. It shows how brave he was. Jews believe that Michael is a strong protector, and the Catholic Church sees him as the most important protector. In most pictures of Michael, he is shown with a sword, a standard, or a scale for counting souls. He also beats Satan and a dragon in other scenes. People all over the world love Archangel Michael because he keeps people safe and fights evil with all his might. He is always there to help people in need in many Christian stories. In the same way that a brave protector fights strong enemies, he leads people to hope and knowledge. Bad things can happen, but Michael's life shows that good things can happen too. Courage and strength are especially important when things are hard. Michael can do a lot more than just fight, which is cool. He is well known for being able to heal people, which makes him an interesting person. Think about an angel who helps people and leads the troops in heaven. The Pope St. Gregory the Great asked Michael to help stop a terrible plague that was going through Rome in the year 590 AD. Some people built a big figure at Castel Sant'Angelo to honor Michael and show their thanks for stopping the plague. Many people believed that seeing Michael in their dreams would help them get better, so Emperor Constantine the Great also built the Michaelian. It was a safe place where sick people could go to feel better. Bible stories say that Michael fought Lucifer in heaven. Lucifer is an angel who sin-ped. From these stories, we can see how determined Michael was to do God's will and beat Satan. In order to show that he is in charge of the ongoing fight against evil, artists often show Michael winning these fights. Different Catholic prayers and rituals, like the Chaplet of St. Michael and the Prayer to St. Michael, are strong ways to ask Archangel Michael to stay safe and help them. Michael is very important to Catholicism because he fights for rights and protects the faithful. These practices give people a sense of courage and safety. Today, when we worry about things like the end of the world or the danger of global war, these stories about Michael become more important. They shine like beacons of hope at night, telling us that good is still fighting evil, even when things look the worst. Bible prophecies, like those in the book of Revelation, Revelation 12:7-9, show that Michael is a very important person in these difficult times. He leads battles in heaven against strong enemies like the enemy that looks like a dragon. Christians can find peace and strength in these passages because they tell them that the fight for justice goes on and that heroes like Michael are leading the way. Look at the Holy Michael the Archangel. People of all religions look up to him as a guardian and know that he will always look out for those who ask him to. Chapter 4. Faith versus Thousand of Religions. In many religions, the Archangel Michael is important because he stands for safety, help, and the never-ending battle against evil. Michael is revered by Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike, who see him as a powerful guardian and the boss of all the angelic forces in heaven. Michael is called a defender of Israel in the Bible. He keeps the faithful safe from evil forces. Daniel 10:13 and 12. 1 in the Bible show that Michael is a brave friend in spiritual battles. He looks out for God's people and helps them when they are in trouble. In the same way, Michael leads an army of angels against Satan in the book of Revelation, 12:7-9. This proves that he protects people both here and in heaven. In addition to these stories, Michael is also important in Jewish tradition as the person who was picked to protect Israel. He stands for God's care over the country in the real world. Michael's good deeds are celebrated by all Christians. The Baha'i and Islamic faiths also remember him. Everyone looks up to him as a defender, as shown by this. Many people care about and love Michael, which shows how important he is to many. But he's more than just a figure in a story. He brings them hope and safety. Throughout history, Satan and the Archangel Michael have fought many times. These fights have shown how much he respects Satan and how strong he is against evil. A famous event involves a fight over what should happen to Moses' body. This shows how committed Michael is to always doing the right thing. Michael shows how much he respects God's power in verse 9 of the book of Jude by not using his own strength to scold Satan. Instead, he tells him off by calling him by this name. Michael is one of only a few angels and the only archangel named in official religious texts. This shows how important he is in the Bible. This special honor makes him even more important among gods and goddesses. It shows that he is a brave fighter, defender, and supporter of God's will, who fights hard against those who don't follow divine law. People still pray to Michael to keep them safe and to help them solve problems in their own lives and in the community. A lot of people think Michael did great things and see him as a comforting figure who shows that good can win over evil. People find strength in his story, which helps them keep their faith and get through hard times. People look up to Michael's guidance in spiritual battles against evil, both in heaven and on earth. It inspires them to keep fighting well against evil. Chapter 5. The Christian Crusade Against Darkness. In Christian thought, the idea of a spiritual fight shows that good and evil are always at odds with each other. While Catholics, Protestants, Evangelicals, and Pentecostals all believe in God, they have different ideas about how to understand this idea. Every group fights this battle in its own unique way. As a Catholic, you can fight evil through practices like exorcism, which are meant to get rid of evil spirits. An angel, especially the Archangel Michael, plays a big part in Catholic faith. People see him as a guardian against evil. Some well-known Catholics, like Father Gabriele Amorth, who is known for doing exorcisms for the Vatican, have talked about having bad spirits visit them. This shows how strong faith in God and calling on his name can be in hard times. For Christians, the story of how God fought evil is more than just a story. It's a big part of their spiritual journey. People who follow this way see themselves as part of an army in heaven and use prayer, faith, and Bible lessons as tools. It's not about weapons. This fight is about mental strength to keep the soul safe and spread good things. To make their spiritual defenses stronger, different Christian groups have come up with different ideas. Some people believe that prayer and learning the Bible are very important, while others believe in things like exorcism. Even though these things are different, the main goal is still the same: to fight evil and encourage good behavior. People who are Christians are more alert and ready because they know that life is a battle between forces that want to take them off the right path and forces that want to stay true to their faith. Christians understand and fight spiritual battle to get through hard times and stay away from temptations. This makes their faith stronger and helps them stay in line with what God wants. This idea of spiritual war also shows how strong faith can be and how important it is to get help from other Christians as you go through life. It shows how important it is for people who believe in something to stick together and do it. To get through the dark times and into the light, they depend on the community ties they have with each other. In some Christian groups, like Anglicanism and Lutheranism, people really believe that we need to fight evil. People in these groups believe that reading the Bible, praying, and having full faith in Jesus are strong ways to fight these spiritual battles. A lot of famous people in history, like Martin Luther and William Gurnall, have written about how the name of Jesus and God's words can help us deal with these issues. There are many ways to deal with spiritual issues in evangelicalism, which is another well-known branch of Christianity. A lot of well-known people in this movement, like C. Peter Wagner and Ed Murphy, talk about smart ways to deal with dark forces. They fight Christians who are being possessed by devils to free those people and show how strong Christians are when they do this. They also stress how important it is to put on the armor of God, which is an idea from Ephesians 6, and use prayer and the Bible as strong defenses against evil. For Pentecostal Christians, spiritual war is very important. Groups like the Welsh Revival and people like Jesse Penn Lewis give them ideas. They believe that the Holy Spirit gives them extra strength, the power to pray strongly, and spiritual gifts that help them fight evil. A lot of Christians think that the best way to fight evil is to pray. People who follow Jesus are told to pray a lot, see him as their final leader, and learn more about Satan, who is their enemy. The spiritual power that Christians have because they follow Jesus can be used through prayer. This makes them stronger and helps them beat the bad guys. People in charge, like Sam Storms, talk a lot about spiritual war. When Christians meet Satan, they are told not to give in to fear or pride. On the other hand, they tell people to stay alert and use the divine skills that have been given to them to avoid lies. Warfare prayer is a type of prayer that asks God to give people the strength and understanding to fight evil spirits. Storms explains what it means. In the fight against evil, it's very important to find the right balance. There are people who believe in evil too much, and people who don't even think about what they do. People who believe in God need to know the details of spiritual battle so they can fight evil forces in a healthy way. The Bible, especially Ephesians 6, shows how important it is to put on God's defense. The Bible is a strong weapon against the devil's plans, so you should live in the truth, do what is right, keep your faith, be saved, and use it as armor. Bible verses show that Christians should follow Jesus' strong example of not giving in to Satan's lies. A few people see prayer as more than just asking for help. They see it as taking part in a spiritual fight. Christians see themselves in the fight against Satan's evil plans along with Jesus. It's not about using physical tools in this fight. It's about prayers that come from faith and the Bible. Christians can not only protect themselves, but also fight forces that want to hurt them if they know how to use these spiritual tools. They can deal with these issues with the help of leaders like Sam Storms, who tell them to put faith in God and spiritual power over fear and arrogance. At this time, people are drawn to Archangel Michael because in many stories and cultures, he is seen as a guardian and source of hope. As a sign of spiritual help and protection, Michael tells Christians to stay strong on their faith road, knowing that the heavens will watch over them and lead them. Chapter 6. The Many Faces of the Protector of Faith. Many people have had their lives changed by seeing pictures of Archangel Michael. These images give people hope and faith wherever they are seen. This is shown very well in the miracle of Monte Gargano. In this case, it shows how strong faith and trust can be. In the beautiful land of Italy, in the year 492 AD, the Archangel Michael is said to have appeared more than once on Mount Gargano to speak to the leader of the local church. He showed people how to make a temple that wasn't Christian, a holy place, for Christians to pray. This wasn't just an accident. It showed that Michael was still being kind to people who were really trying to find God's will. The place is now called the Sanctuary of Monte Sant'Angelo. For people from all over the world, it is a sign of faith and hope that makes them feel safe under Michael's divine protection. These days, moving stories from the 1944 Battle of Normandy have shown that Michael is still remembered in our lives. It is said that British soldiers saw the form of Archangel Michael on the battlefield during the chaos and turmoil of war. When things were bad, this sight made them feel better and gave them strength. For believers, these meetings are real proof that Michael will always be with them through the hardest times, protecting and supporting them when they need it the most. Skeptics might say that these meetings are just dreams. The stories about Archangel Michael's appearances are strong memories of his constant presence and promise to help and protect those who ask for help from heaven. He brings people hope, faith, and strength by being in their lives and showing them the way with God's light, even when things look the worst. The book of Revelation says that Archangel Michael is very strong. He is in charge of a big battle against evil with the troops of heaven. This story, which reads like a story, is actually a powerful symbol that reminds us that good always wins over evil, and Michael is in charge of this never-ending fight. Michael is shown in art all over the world in a lot of different ways. These different styles are used for more than just looks. They give comfort and hope, and they are a strong sign that God is watching over us. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, there are many interesting stories about Archangel Michael. One of them is about how he helped Emperor Constantine, which was such a big deal that it made the emperor become a Christian. More than just a list of events, this story shows how Michael changed the course of history by always bringing people to faith and justice. These stories and works of art make Archangel Michael a very important figure who stands for God's protection and direction. Being with him makes us feel better and gives us ideas. It also keeps us aware of how God's good power is always with us. The story of Joan of Arc is another one that really moves me. She told him that the Archangel Michael appeared to her and told her how to free France. She was strong-willed and had a lot of faith, which helped her lead and do things that seemed impossible. Michael also helped her by giving her dreams. This story is more than just a history lesson. It shows how faith can help you face and get through big problems, with Michael's help from heaven. When Michael showed up at Shonai, it was in a very interesting way. A church dedicated to him was about to flood, but there is a story that Michael split the earth in half, letting the water pass through and saving the church and its people. We need to remember that Michael has the power to keep us safe and guide us through dangerous situations. People all over the world have been telling these stories about Archangel Michael for a very long time. They are still alive and well today, giving people around the world who believe in them comfort, hope, and direction. Every story, miracle, and sighting of Michael strengthens our faith and our connection to God. People tell us that Archangel Michael is our brave protector against all evil, even when things look the worst and we are scared, doubtful, or having a lot of problems. We're excited about the big roles that Archangel Michael and Jerusalem will play in holy prophecies that will lead people to a future full of God's love. Chapter 7. Archangel Michael's timeless miracles. Over the course of history, people who were lucky enough to see Archangel Michael have had their lives changed by his sight. People still talk about the miracle of Monte Gargano, which took place in a small town in Italy in 492 AD. A lot of people say that Archangel Michael showed up on the slopes of Mount Gargano and told the religious leader of the area how to convert an old pagan shrine into a Christian church. Michael has always been committed to helping and protecting people who are on the right path, as this important event showed. A lot of people from all over the world come to pray here. It's now called the Sanctuary of Monte Sant'Angelo. People go there because it stands for hope and faith. These days, moving stories about the 1944 Battle of Normandy have been made public. A British soldier said he saw the Archangel Michael on the battlefield when there was a lot of chaos and fear because of the war. Few people believe these stories are true, but for those who do, they are a strong reminder of Michael's promise to be there for people in trouble, giving them comfort, strength, and safety when they need it the most. The Book of Revelation describes Archangel Michael as a very strong person who leads the angels of heaven in a decisive fight against evil. This story is more than just a story. It's about how good always wins over evil, with Michael at the front of this never-ending fight. The fact that he shows up in many works of art is more than just a beautiful sight. It gives us comfort and hope by telling us that God is always watching over and protecting us. There are a lot of moving stories about the Archangel Michael in Eastern Orthodox Christianity. From one of these stories, we learn how important it was for him to save Emperor Constantine and turn him to Christianity. This story is important for more than just history. It shows how Michael has changed the course of history and led us to be good and have faith. We can get ideas from the story of Joan of Arc. She said that Archangel Michael helped her free France when he showed up to her. She was able to lead and do what seemed impossible because she had strong faith and could see Michael. This story isn't just about a real person. It also shows how faith, strengthened by angels like Michael, helps us deal with tough situations. In Shonai, a storm put a church dedicated to Michael in danger, which is also very interesting. The story goes that Michael moved in to protect the church and its people from the flood by splitting the ground. This just happened not long ago. It shows how well Michael can protect us and keep us safe. These tales about the Archangel Michael are more than just legends. They come from different places and times. Christians all over the world still look to them for comfort, hope, and direction. Every story, miracle, and sighting of Michael makes our faith and relationship with God stronger. They also tell us that we are always with each other. Are you scared, unsure, or having a hard time? Archangel Michael is there to protect you, give you hope, and fight evil with all your might. Being with him all the time gives us support and peace of mind, reminding us that with faith, bravery, and help from above, we can get through anything. Archangel Michael, Gabriel, or Satan in his current form. Which do you think is the strongest?